Which product would improve humanity most if its cost were lowered to $1? Pretty much the same in the UK, well, England for sure anyway. Repayment at the moment starts when you earn just over £27,000 per year, repaid at 9% of what you earn above that, so if you earn £28,000, you pay 9% of £1,000. If you stop earning that amount, they stop taking loan payments from you too. Student loans also don't count against your credit rating and come out of your wages automatically like tax. I think our repayment write-off is at 30 years too. What a degree, or just education, does do is create a stable, coherent society. As education becomes less practical, we can see our political situations destabilize and fail due to the stress out upon them by the uneducated. Education is often treated like a privilege. But the truth is that in the 21st century, and considering the type of world we live in, education isn't a privilege, it isn't a right, it's a duty. Or at least should and would be, if it were accessible. In normal countries it is free if you can't afford it. In Italy I pay €156/year of university, and didn't have to pay anything before that even if I had a pretty good education. People who can't afford even that €156/year can super easily get scholarships since here the right to study is protected by law. It only costs more if you can afford it, and even then the maximum is around €4,000/year. All of this for public universities, which are the majority and also almost always the best, and most countries in Europe work the same way. Macedonia. Flight from Canada and back costs maximum $2,000. 32 fillings multiplied by $13 is $416. Add $100 in case you need a few root canals. The local anesthesias used also cost $2 each. So let's call it an even $600 for the dental work assuming all of your teeth need work, including a few root canals. A good 2-week vacation shouldn't cost more than $500 for a single person. So we've got $2,000 plus $600 plus $500 equals $3,100. In reality, this would cost much less. If you wait, you can get a flight for close to $1,000, not $2,000. I've recently come to terms that I need to seek professional help for my anxiety. It's not totally crippling and luckily I am not nor have I ever been suicidal, but some days I find it extremely hard to focus on work because I just worry about other things that are completely out of my control. I've reached out to every place that's covered under my insurance within 25 miles and so far no one has availability to take on new patients. I'm going to widen the search, but needless to say the struggle to simply get help certainly hasn't improved things. I've recently come to terms that I need to seek professional help for my anxiety. It's not totally crippling and luckily I am not nor have I ever been suicidal, but some days I find it extremely hard to focus on work because I just worry about other things that are completely out of my control. I've reached out to every place that's covered under my insurance within 25 miles and so far no one has availability to take on new patients. I'm going to widen the search, but needless to say the struggle to simply get help certainly hasn't improved things. As an American I also don't get it. So like, I pay for insurance monthly, and then whenever I do go to the doctor, even for just a routine exam, I have to pay a copay? So even with insurance I'm still asking myself if I need to go to a doctor if nothing feels wrong because I'm still spending money. I know, preventative care, but it's so terrible. And even if you do decide to go to a doctor, you'd better hope you've done some basic research on them. Make sure they'll actually be attentive and won't dismiss your concerns. It's a mess. Okay, so how it works, Eli 5, there's a lot of components, so I'm breaking it down outside in on why it's so expensive and about the worst system imaginable. First, medical companies sell drugs to many countries. But countries where their government pays for the medical bills try to keep things simple. So they only buy from one drug company at a time for big discounts. This gives the company a monopoly and consistent stream of revenue in exchange for a loss in profit. Those companies then turn to places like the US and make the profit up there where they don't have that exclusive deal, so they can charge more. The US government has a branch called the FDA, which does a really good job at making sure our medicine is safe and effective. But to be so good at that, drugs take a lot more time and money than they normally would. Insurance companies are a service where you pay them money, then they will pay parts of your medical bills for you. Very similar to the raise in taxes the socialized counties take to cover medical costs. But that's not all the insurance companies do. They also barter with the hospital for lower prices. The hospital knows there will be haggling, and so they arbitrarily raise their prices so that they can haggle down without issue. This is why you see pictures of saline, which is basically a bag of water, cost hundreds of dollars. No one actually pays that. Also, you can barter with the hospital yourself. If you even just ask for an itemized receipt. Some places will more than half your bill first. But that's super annoying. Most hospitals are non-profits, which means they have to provide assistance for low-income patients. Look for sliding scale adjustments on your hospital's website. Based on your income, 80 to 100% of the procedure could be covered by the hospital. You can try calling the hospital and asking to speak to the patient advocate or patient representative, and they could talk you through how the system works and how to get care and qualify for the reduced cost. I don't think he regretted it. I'm sure he wished that things had been different, but by all accounts he was very philosophical about it. He wrote many of the band's lyrics. I'd look at some of the content on Holy Hell, some of which came from Tom's own writing before he passed, the rest was written by his twin brother. The important thing is that for the sake of a few $100s you might be able to avoid the pain and grief he and his family lived through. I fully appreciate the finding the funds might be hard, but this will cost much less now than it would if this were melanoma, and that did spread. A friend of mine went through a couple of years of treatment, in the UK, fortunately for him, but it was a slow process, trying every avenue and every trail he could, that ultimately didn't work. But if he'd addressed it sooner, his husband may not have been a widower 3 years after they married. Solar panels. Low cost, easy access to power, and related logistics, is one of the best ways to improve a civilization. When you don't have to think about power production, everything else basically becomes a product of labor until automation happens. With practically free solar, we would be able to grow food and have desalination plants that would be able to save hundreds of millions of people around the world. Everything else is secondary because unlimited and, almost, free energy allows industries to expand at huge rates, and as the various sectors expand, more of that free energy passes into improved infrastructure. Fewer people dying of malnutrition, fewer people dying of thirst, fewer crop losses due to drought. When food and water becomes cheaper, and there are more people able to contribute to society, education becomes cheaper and technological advancement accelerates. I'll twist it slightly. I want social media account subscriptions to be raised to $1 a month, from being free. The whole way: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, etc. make money is by keeping you on the platform for as long as possible to watch as many ads as possible. Turns out, the way to do that is to appeal to our basest instincts of hate and outrage, not to mention the downsides of having people on social media for a long time just as a time sink. If social media were a subscription model, there wouldn't be a need to keep users hooked in by algorithm, and we would probably have significantly healthier relationships with our phones and our perceptions of the wider world. I know other people have said it, but I'll go ahead and emphasize it: healthcare. For real, it's bad enough that I've told friends if I ever need a hospital, don't call an ambulance. Either drive me there in my/their car or just leave me there. An ambulance ride where I live would run about $1,000. If anything was ever seriously wrong with me and I needed surgery that would put me tens of thousands of dollars in debt, if not more, I'd just say no and die. I'd rather spend all my money on fun stuff than die than be in debt for potentially decades. For most things, this is a silly question. What? You make education worth $1, so you have to pay teachers in cents, then there will be no education at all. Same with healthcare. I'm assuming we are not paying these things with taxes, because then you would be paying more than $1 anyways. But then I thought about something that actually makes sense to lower in cost to $1 and make the world better for it: heroin and cocaine grams. It's tough enough to deal with addiction. This way addicts would at least get to keep their money to help get their lives together. I totally agree. I've always disliked my mom's cousin, and she never liked her either because she is a narcissist and only ever reaches out when she needs us, for example to babysit her son, but always finds excuses when we need something. My mom finally broke off contact with her when she started throwing herself at my mom's ex, my dad, when I was around, and also demanded for him to pay for her hotel room so she can stay with my dad and I during our holiday. She's now saying that she should have stopped spending time with her sooner because she only did so because she was family. Straight up. I worked day shift at a bar and we had a stool at one end that we could sit on if needed. Most of the time I didn't use it, but we didn't have floor mats behind the bar, so some days my back would really ache and I'd take a few minutes to rest in between customers. Well, one day I came in and the stool was gone. I was confused, but I didn't think much of it until one of our old, shitty, lazy, couldn't stand for 3 solid minutes if he tried regulars bragged to me about how the owner had removed the stool at his request, because he didn't like seeing us sit down behind the bar. I had to point out to him that most bartenders get floor mats, and the fact that we didn't, plus we worked 10-hour shifts with no breaks, meant we deserved the right to sit when we got a second. He had nothing to say to that, though it was obvious that he'd clearly never given it any thought before that moment. VE taken roller skating lessons with a class of 5-year-olds and I don't have kids. All the parents thought it was strange, but I felt it was the best way to learn rather than risking falling on the kids at the rink. Plus, since the kids were ahead of me on skills, the teacher had them show what they knew by having them teach me. The kids loved it. Many of the parents were bothered by me joining the class, when it was specifically an all-ages class. I just didn't realize that I would be the only person not that young. I found out most of the parents couldn't skate themselves. Seems to me it would have been good for them to be out there learning as well rather than just watching. Or, if they wanted their own class, enough adults could have requested a separate class. I hope all the kids kept skating. Going off that, I hate the idea that doing a hobby as an adult requires you to either teach, go pro, or go big on some competition circuit. A person can be committed to a hobby just because they enjoy it, not because they're trying to make money or become a world champion. I'm a swing dancer, and people think they're being nice when they say things like, "Wow, you must be a professional." Or do you teach? I bet you teach, you've done it for so long. And it's like, I appreciate the intention, but why? I DJ for $25 to $50 a gig, it's barely even a side gig, but I have no interest in teaching, I don't compete well, sometimes I perform but I'm really just doing this for fun. Why is that so hard for people to understand? I hate that too. Also, just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're a talented teacher. Also, the reason I do my hobbies is for fun so I can escape for work. The idea of turning that into more work isn't appealing at all. Also, most things that are hobbies for a reason. For example, I knit, and people tell me I should sell the stuff I make. Sorry, most people want to pay $20 for a knit hat and it would take me so much time that I'd have to charge $200 as a minimum for the time, energy, and supplies it cost me. And that implies that I'd have a customer for it in the first place. In no way will it ever be a money-producing venture. Just let me enjoy my silly projects at home, thanks. I think you'd benefit from one of my favorite C.S. Lewis quotes. Critics who treat adult as a term of approval, instead of as a merely descriptive term, cannot be adult themselves. To be concerned about being grown up, to admire the grown up because it is grown up, to blush at the suspicion of being childish, these things are the marks of childhood and adolescence. And in childhood and adolescence they are, in moderation, healthy symptoms. Young things ought to want to grow. But to carry on into middle life or even into early manhood, this concern about being adult is a mark of really arrested development. When I was 10, I read fairy tales in secret and would have been ashamed if I had been found doing so. Now that I am 50, I read them openly. When I became a man, I put away childish things, including the fear of childishness and the desire to be very grown up. Embrace the things that make you happy and cast off your worries about what others might think. I've spent so much time working 80 to 100-hour weeks in the past, now I'm just so fucking burnt out I can barely handle 40 without getting angry. The only reason I put up with working so much was because I desperately needed the money and didn't really have a choice. Now I'm making enough that I can say fuck it, I'm not doing that, and it's wonderful. This past week I worked 10+ hour days in a row to finish up the tail end of a project, and by Tuesday of this week I was totally over it, was past the crunch time deadline, and ended up taking the rest of this week off. Don't care if it pisses anyone off, I pissed away my weekend and want to relax with my family, deal with it. Putting our jobs before our personal lives? Edit, I took the day off work after I posted this, because why not? Edit 2, just wanted to share this quote. Each and every one of us has been born into a given historical reality, ruled by particular norms and values, and managed by a unique economic and political system. We take this reality for granted, thinking it is natural, inevitable, and immutable. We forget that our world was created by an accidental chain of events, and that history shaped not only our technology, politics, and society, but also our thoughts, fears, and dreams. The cold hand of the past emerges from the grave of our ancestors, grips us by the neck and directs our gaze towards a single future. We have felt that grip from the moment we were born, so we assume that it is a natural and inescapable part of who we are. Therefore we seldom try to shake ourselves free, and envision alternative futures. Yuval Noah Harari. One of the reasons I quit my most recent job. Sure, it had awesome benefits, but I was bashed over the head so much about how I'm not putting work first enough and how dare I go out to grab dinner while on call or have a date with my husband instead of sitting around waiting for my boss to send me spreadsheets at 10 p.m. just in case. By the time I quit I had a month's worth of PTO I hadn't used in forever because every request for a break was shut down with "we're busy and need you" equals "we haven't hired anyone else and no one knows what the fuck to do except give you these documents to make sense of them for us."